when we become adults, we've got locked into this box of being so serious about everything. And there's nothing to be serious about. There's some time when you need to be actually silly. And it doesn't matter how people look at you. You need to spend some time. And that, just in that moment of, as I say, being silly and having fun with yourself, that's a healing moment.
Hello. Welcome to the How to Take Care of Yourself podcast. It's your friend Veronica, and I am so glad you're here. Today's guest is someone who truly embodies the power of healing through human connection. Dr. Njideka Olatunde is a doctor of naturopathy, a reflexology master, a visionary healer, and the Chief Empowerment Officer at Focus on Healing Wellness Institute in Washington, D.C. With over 4 decades of experience, she made it her life's mission to help people reclaim their health naturally without depending on medications. In this conversation, we dive deep into the power of touch, the pain-stress connection, and the real roots of healing that most modern medicine just overlooks. Her work with Reflexology-Touchology has transformed thousands of lives, and today you're about to hear why. Honestly, this one is a masterclass in what it really means to listen to your body and heal from the inside out. Get cozy, get open, and get ready, because what Dr. Olatunde shares could change the way you think about your health forever. Just a reminder, before we get into the episode, it helps us out here at the podcast tremendously if you hit subscribe. It really does. The more subscribers we get, the more we grow. The more we grow, the bigger guests we can have on, like Dr. Olatunde, so that you can learn more about how to take care of yourself. Okay, let's get into it. Hello, Dr. Olatunde. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, and thank you for having me, as well as I'm looking forward to sharing with you and your guests.
And we're so excited to have you. So I've told our listeners, our viewers, a little bit about you, but I would love for you to tell us in your words who you are and how you came to be such a luminary in the healing space.
Okay, let me condense it. The way I can tell you is that my whole experience in health and wellness began as a child. When I was a little girl, I wanted to be a doctor. And the reason being is because I grew up with home remedies. And back then, doctors came to your home for office visits. And I'm seeing these doctors. I'm saying, oh, yes, that's what I want to do when I grow up. Now, fast forward, when I got to school, I found out that what I thought doctors to be was not what was being taught in school. And I said, I won't make it here. So I changed my career and became a social worker. So I did social worker for a number of years, and I covered the whole gambit from infants all the way to seniors. In every phase of social service, I did it. But one of the things that concerned me when I was a social worker was the fact that everybody was going to the emergency room for their doctors. And I said, something's wrong with this picture. And that kind of sparked the energy again. I want to be a doctor. But that was around the time when naturopaths and alternative therapies were opening up. So I went back to school to become a naturopathic practitioner. But one of the things that before I became a naturopathic practitioner, I already kind of knew about reflexology, so I added that to my practice. And from there evolved to what I do today, using reflexology as an alternative to relieving pain and stress.
Wow, from your childhood dreams to now, that is an amazing journey. I'm in awe because I had a similar trajectory. So I'm like, oh yeah, exactly. When I was a little kid, I was like, oh, you heal people with herbs and you heal people with, ginger tea is a miracle drug, right? then you and I went to pre-med and I was a medic in the Air Force and I was like, "Oh, everybody's just going to the emergency room just like you." So I feel like we have something in common there.
Definitely.
So where did your background in reflexology come from?
Okay, long story with that as well. Because I was ingrained in home remedies, as I became an adult, I became interested in studying my ancestral connections, my heritage. And I have my African heritage is from Nigeria, and my Native American heritage is Cherokee. And so what happened was I had the opportunity to study reflexology in Nigeria. And when I went to Nigeria, I wanted to study because of the home remedies. I wanted to go straight to what we call the bush. I didn't want the city. I want the bush. I wanted the natural. And so I spent about a year and a half studying in Nigeria and the medical practices in the bush. And then I had the opportunity to do connecting with my Native American heritage. I did what was called a vision quest, and I went to Spokane. And what they did is they put you on a sacred place on the mountain. You're all by yourself outdoors. Now, if you can imagine, I grew up in an urban environment. I knew nothing about living outdoors or connected with nature from that perspective. So I'm placed on this little mountain spot, and my only concern was I going to see snakes? That was what I was my inner thing I had to deal with. But what happened was when you were placed on this spot, you could come down at any time, but you were supposed to stay for 7 days. So my competitive nature kicked in. Okay, I got to do this for 7 days. So what happened was you're on a spot and you don't have a tent. All you have is a sleeping bag and you had some plastic to cover you over if it rained or something like that. And you had to do journaling and documenting what was going on. And so every day a woodpecker came and every day butterflies came. So, when you went down, all that you wrote, it would get interpreted to you. And so little did I know, and I was with around a lot of adventure takers, people who were really in tune with nature. And I was the only one that stayed for 7 days. So when I came, and the other thing to add to that, we were fasting. You weren't eating every day. You would only get water. So it was that kind of experience. And so when I came down and then, we did what we call the explaining what was going on in terms of your connection with nature. I found out that I'm a part of the butterfly clan. And so that was my connection with the butterflies. And with the woodpecker, one of the things is that it was saying that I have an inkling toward drumming and I love drums. And so the woodpecker was about the drumming, and that was my connection with the drumming. And then they said, you need to look at your hands because that's where you're supposed to work. You're supposed to work with your hands. So to me, I thought that meant massage therapy. So I went to school to do massage. And I did not like massage. And so then I went back and restarted my education in reflexology, and I loved it. And that's where I planted my seed, and that's where I took roots in terms of focusing specifically on learning and mastering everything that I could as it related to reflexology.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that. I love that you stayed up there for the whole time. You beat out everybody else and you didn't even know it. But that speaks volumes of who
Hmm.
you are as a person.
It
Like
does.
that just shows how open you were to the experience, which
Yes.
I'm getting goosebumps. Like
Yes.
that's amazing.
It was a real healing experience. Not only that, it was in terms of me finding my path, but it was also healing because you were also in the process of releasing stuff. That was one of the things because whenever energy and things came up, you had to go find a spot and put that energy in that spot. I mean, all of that was going on too. So and that's the reason why you were fasting because it was a total cleansing of mind, body, and emotions at the same time.
Powerful, powerful
Mm-hmm.
situation.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Did you have a core insight or some understanding that bubbled to the surface that you were surprised by?
It really kind of molded what I do today because I'm really focused. And even today, in terms of my practice, is I think an extension of that experience because I focus specifically on the mind, body, emotion connections. And I focus on that in addition to the fact that all of our health problems are related to pain and stress. So we're dealing with the pain stress connection that in order to get the healing has to be connected to the mind body emotion connection. So I think all of that is like what kind of molded me and created me just going through that experience. And so when I work with my clients, I'm able to understand what it is when I see them because the first thing I focus on is the pain stress connection. And that also led me to creating what I call relieving pain first before treatment. And when you deal with it from that perspective, what you're talking about is, which I call my touchology approach, because the first form of healing is touch. And the first form of touch as a practitioner is to listen. And when you listen, what you're doing is you're helping your clients slash patients to be able to do, I guess, what a mini experience in terms of what I had on the Vision Quest in terms of them opening up and letting out. And so when they open up and letting out, what I'm listening for is I want to find out where is that stress connection that's causing your pain. And as I listen, this is what happens.
Amazing. And do you find ever that once you help your clients find that pain point and work through it, do you find that they might not even need much other treatment?
What really happens, and I think that we don't focus on this, is because one of the things I do is when I talk to my patients, I talk to them about the fact that you don't have pain without stress, and you don't have stress without pain. The two go hand in hand. And you have to understand that the reason you're in pain is because of stress, which was something that happened outside of your body that you brought inside. And when you understand that you brought stress from outside inside your body, and when it gets inside, like anything, it's trying to find a way to come out. And the way it comes out is in the form of where you're feeling pain. And say, for example, if all of a sudden you have back pain and it's related to a stress incident, and the stress is trying to use the back as its form of releasing itself to come outside the body, and that's not a normal channel of elimination in terms of removing toxins out of the body. And so once we connect that stress factor with that pain, now you are open to receiving the reflexology, which is about relieving pain first before we put the treatment in place. Because when we start talking about treatment, you have to be open and receptive, because treatment can be a combination of many things, because there's no one therapy that can do it all. Does it mean that you need some energy work? Does it mean we got to look at nutrition? Does it mean we need exercise? Does it mean that you need a total body cleanse? You know, it's a combination of a lot of things. Do we need to look at what you're eating? Does that need to change? So once we can connect all of that, now I put my patients in a situation so that the other thing I tell them, you have to understand that it's a two-way process. It's not one way, which means that as you're giving to me, I'm giving to you. It's a circular motion of give and receive and give. We have to work together collectively and cooperatively as one. The one thing I do is assist your body in its natural healing process, because all of us have the ability to heal ourselves. But we've got to tune in and we've got to understand that. And the way that happens begins with the first line of touch called listening.
Love that. And it really speaks to the necessity of turning down the volume of the pain and the stress so that you can see more clearly what's really going on. Because I know I've noticed in my clinical practice too, it's
Yes.
like if someone's in discomfort, we might not even know what else is going on because that other stress, the pain is so loud, you can't hear through it. Right?
And that taps into one of the things when you're looking when you're dealing with stress pain connection. When a person comes to a doctor, the major reason they're coming to a doctor is because they are in pain. That's the only reason you go to see your doctor, is because you're in pain. So let's flip it from the business side. Say, for example, you go into the store, you know exactly what you want, and you go to the store, you find what you want, and you make the purchase. When you go to the doctor, you want pain relief, and that's the purchase that you want to make for the doctor to relieve the pain. But we have to understand that when you go to the doctor, today's doctor misses that first form of touch, which is listening. Because the first thing they're going to tell you, you're going to say, doctor, my knees are aching. It's really excruciating pain in my knees. And the first thing, doctor, well, we've got to take some tests. And when we take some tests, then we'll be able to find out what's going on and put the treatment. In the meantime, here's a prescription for you to take for your pain. Now, I don't know what's causing that pain, but I have a prescription now for pain relief. And so I say that to say, and the only reason that happens is because I tell my clients, you understand the operation of your automobile. You know how the automobile operates. And what you don't know is that the automobile is an exact replica of your body and how your body systems operate. The automobile does the exact same thing. It follows that same pattern. So when you go purchase your car, and they say 6 months you need to do a treatment, or your car starts having some strange noises or the engine light or something, because you immediately go straight to the mechanic and you say, this is what's going on. So what does the mechanic do? Because he's operating from a mechanical perspective, he can identify with what you're talking about and find out how to solve the problem. You cannot take your body to the doctor like that. You have to stop going to the doctor saying, my knees hurt, and expect the doctor to operate like the mechanic. Okay, this is what we need to do. You've got to be about asking your doctor to spend time listening to you as you talk about what happened right before your knees start hurting. Can you remember that? A lot of us are in so much pain now that we don't even remember the first day that our pain started, and it's become a condition of our life. And so now I get treated for this, and now I got this problem, then I got this. And so we got a combination of all these problems as related to that first problem you had when nobody listened to you in terms of why you're in that pain.
You're so right. And I also have a theory that a lot of people are in more pain than they realize because it's become so constant. It's just the background noise. And until it's relieved, they don't even really even understand. It's like the whole boil the frog analogy
Yeah.
where the frog doesn't know it's being boiled because it happens so slowly. And I
Yeah.
love what you said about that initial lack of listening because it causes the emotional body to kind of shut down. That small, scared child inside is like, oh, well, no one's listening anyway.
That's it. And that's why I'm always telling, I always tell my patients, I said, you've got to find some time to let that little girl and that little boy come out and play. When we become adults, we've got locked into this box of being so serious about everything. And there's nothing to be serious about. There's some time when you need to be actually silly. And it doesn't matter how people look at you. You need to spend some time. And that, just in that moment of, as I say, being silly and having fun with yourself, that's a healing moment. That's a touching moment. And you will realize how much has been released from you just for spending a few minutes being silly and having fun with yourself. It releases. It's a form of release. And when we stay in this box of structure, we lock ourselves in to the pain and the stress and all of the traumas that go through our mind 24/7 that we don't release because we're not taking the time to what? Touch ourselves inside as well as out.
Absolutely agree 100%. And I love what you said about people get locked into the seriousness. And part of that, and I was just talking about this in another episode, is that people people want to stay in the familiar because it feels comfortable because it's familiar, and they're almost afraid to do something silly or fun because they're not even sure what that feels like anymore. So they live in this little bit of fear of like, oh, well, if I dance around in my kitchen and laugh really hard, that's terrifying because I don't know what that even looks like. Who is the me that does that? Right? They can't
That's a
figure that
very
out.
good point. And the only reason that happens is because we've accepted that this quote and unquote is the defined way adults are supposed to operate. Let me give you an example. I do a consultant in the school system. And one of the things that disturbs me more than anything is the fact that we adults are the ones that are putting all of these rules and regulations and plans in place according to how they think. And when they put this in place, they forget that they are working with children, not little adults. And they treat children like little adults, and they're putting them in a structured box because of what you just said. I've forgotten how to be a child. And if you have forgotten how to be a child, what you are doing is causing young people to lose their sense of creativity. And you have them locked in a structure. And I look at this and I'm sitting and saying, and everybody's saying, well, they don't do this and they aren't doing this. And I always tell them, these are children. They're doing what children do. Children are not structured, but you want them to be structured. And it's because of this, the population that is experiencing the most stress and pain right now are young people, because young people are not being told or shown how they can release their stress and pain. And so because of that, you see them as little adults who need to be in a structured box that says, don't do this, don't say this, be quiet, do this. And I'm looking at them, they're fidgety. They want to move, but you're not letting them be the free spirits that they are for how much time they have to do that before they get into the structured adult box. And the other thing is, we refuse to listen to them. If you ever spend some time listening to young people, you'd be surprised what you learn, and you'd be surprised that they know a lot more than you give them credit for, but you refuse to listen to them.
Absolutely true. And I see it all around me, and it's such a shame. And luckily now where I live in rural Maine, and
All right.
I see kids out playing now. But when I lived in the city, I never saw kids out playing. But here they're more inclined because they're farm kids, right? They're brought up to go
Okay.
outside.
Yes. Yes.
And
It's a
that's
big
huge.
difference. Yes. And I'm saying, you all don't understand. And you keep forgetting that these are the same people that when you get in your senior years, you're going to look to them to be taking care of you. And I hear some of the conversations where young people talk about, like, I've already told my mother, do not expect me to be taking care of you. I mean, there's actually saying that because of the things that you have done or the way you feel. I mean, you've put them in a situation where they are forced to voice what they feel, and what they feel is not so good. And I hear this all the time, But I understand. I understand why, because that's a form of trauma, and they're trying to break out of their trauma the best way they know how. And but they come with a sense of their form of wisdom for their age group or for their peer group. And when you hear them talking, and I'm sitting there saying, because I heard a young lady just tell me, she said, my mother is so, negatively abusive with me, verbally. And I've had to grow up this, but but the thing is, the good part about it, she's receiving therapy from a therapist. So that has allowed her to get to the point now where she's feeling confident enough to talk about her trauma and what she wants for her life now. And so as she was sharing with me, I'm understanding what's going on. And so I don't look at it in the negative, but I know that that's really bad. If you are telling your mother that when she gets older, do not expect to come to me. I'm not going to be able to help you. That's just not going to happen, because this is how you are. And I will not be put in a situation to be used and abused, because we're talking about a family that's in trauma. The whole family's in trauma, because this is what's been passed down. It's not that the mother is like that until she had to get it from somewhere in her family, and it's been passed down. But the mother never got the therapy. Daughter has gotten the therapy in terms of, this is what I need to do to heal myself. Now, when I get older, I may get to the point of understanding that I can forgive. Right now, it's about me healing myself before I can even get to the forgive part, which I'm sure that's coming and all that will change. But I've got to get, like you talk about the comfort zone, I've got to get comfortable with who I am now.
Yeah. And it sounds like she's also setting pretty clear boundaries around herself so that she can do that work.
Yes, but she's one of many. This is what's happening to young people now. This is how, because see, you got to understand about, what is it? Is it Generation Z? I think that is. That's the generation that they don't want you to tell them anything, and you get upset with that. But it's not negative. They want to see. They are the generation that you've got to show me. Don't tell me, show me, because I need to see how it's done. I don't need to hear about how you did it. I need to see how it's done. And that's the generation that we need to really start paying a lot of attention to, because they are the ones, if you are open, using the power of touch called listening, that will be able for you to pass your baton on to them, to take what it is you want to do to the next level. That's the piece that's missing. We have to start passing the baton on. And that's the generation who you pass it on to.
And we have to do it with that understanding of that they need to see, because, as far as like my generation, I think yours as well, we were told, and
That's
we
it.
were we were told, and allegory was how we were taught. We were taught through story. And now, because that generation grew up with, TikTok and
Yes.
social media, they
Yes.
just see everything play out, and that's how their cognitive development has
Yes.
tracked. Yeah.
Yes. And for the work that you and I do, see, that's one of the things that I do. I'm working with young people to look at becoming natural therapists. Because, see, the schools don't promote that. And it's going to be up to us to teach them how to become natural therapies and how to utilize that as a part of healing. And they are open and receptive. See, that's the difference. But they need to be shown, how do we do this? And that's my vision in terms of all that I have done. I want to be able to sit back on my porch in my rocking chair as I pass the baton on, and just be there being supportive and encouraging that next generation to take what I've given to you to the next level. Don't do as I say. Create it. Take it to where it's supposed to go, to the next level. Because all that I learned, which I share, when I built my practice, I built my practice with senior citizens. That's how I started my practice. And I spent the bulk of my career working with seniors who in turn, I was dealing with them in their healing process, but in return, they were helping me to develop my craft. They were helping me to turn this into what it is today. And in turn, I'm in the position now where I need to do the same thing to that next generation. And that's what I stand for right now.
What a noble mission. And you've had such a stunning career. And I'm with you. The senior citizens, they're one of the more underserved populations. And that you used that experience to then move through to now be teaching the new generation. That's a breathtaking trajectory. And
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, on behalf of all my listeners and viewers, it's really impressive. And I think it speaks to the work that needs to happen on a more global level, but
Yes,
especially here in
yes,
the North American countries. It's like we need to teach
exactly.
them and show them. Otherwise it'll get lost, and we can't afford to let these therapies get lost.
So true. And that's the problem in terms of helping. I like to say, you've got to step out the box regardless. For me, I'm not saying it was easy. And I don't want the listeners to think that this was an easy path in terms of what I'm doing. No, it was not easy because I had to make a decision in terms of when I said that I wanted to be about introducing reflexology as an alternative in relieving pain naturally. That was a very scary thing. I mean, it's been on me for years, and I fought it to the max in terms of not wanting to do that because of the fear of pharmaceuticals. That was my fear because I knew what that was going to be about. But I also had to understand that what I was doing in actuality has nothing to do with pharmaceuticals. It has to do with what we were born with. All of us have healing power in our hands. We just don't know how to use it. And that's what all of this was leading up to in terms of relieving pain first, using the power of touch. And the power of touch therapy is the reflexology. And I say that to say everybody listening has done reflexology and don't know that they have. And I'll share an example with you of what I mean when I say that. First, understanding for those of you who don't know, reflexology is the art and science of working specific reflex and nerve ending points that are found on the hands, the feet, and the ears to relax, relieve stress and pain, remove toxins and impurities from the body, to improve circulation, as well as relaxing. So that's the concept. But everybody has that ability inside their hands, and you can actually do this yourself to get those benefits. And you've done it. And let me give you an example. When you were a child, you experienced reflexology. If you are a parent, you have performed reflexology on your child. Everybody remembers that little thing called This Little Piggy went to the market and this little piggy stayed home? All of the nerve endings to your head are in your fingers and your toes. And when your parents were turning that little toe, it was stimulating and activating the nerve endings in your head to bring about what? Calmness to the baby or to the child, or to relax it. Some may have gone to sleep. Some may have thought that was the most funniest thing they could have ever experienced. But it was about bringing what that child needed at that time to calm them down. That's how reflexology works.
That's amazing. I never would have thought that this little piggy went to the market would have such profound healing effects other than just distracting a kid or getting them to
Yes.
laugh. That's beautiful. And it's so true. And I think especially like I'm 15 years older than my siblings. So they were babies and I was, a teenager. And I just remember like wanting to kind of play with their little hands and play with their little feet. Like you're just drawn to it
Yes.
naturally.
Yes. Oh, definitely. Because it's who we are. It's a part of our touching ability. And see, one of the things that's a real problem as it relates to touch, it has taken on a negative connotation. And it's negative because here we go. Those people in the box have said touch is bad. And if you think about it, we just went through what? A 2.5-year lockdown. And my unscientific study about the lockdown is that most of the people who made transition was because of the lack of touch. I couldn't touch my family members. I couldn't see my family members. I couldn't hear my family. And all of that is touch. And by not having that touch is why a lot of people made transition, in my opinion. And I say this to say is a lot of people are still in lockdown and not open to touch. And what I'm going to share this with you too, what a lot of people may not know. I live in what I call stress capital USA, aka Washington, D.C. And what people do not know is that in Washington, D.C. metro area, we were in lockdown in a more intensive way than all the other states because the lockdown was so intensified to the point that when it lifted, people were so traumatized. The lockdown here traumatized people that people today still operate like they're in lockdown. I don't touch. They're scared to touch. A lot of people still wearing the mask. You know, they got the gloves on. I mean, all of this because this area is what? A stress capital. This is an experiment ground for stress. I tell you that. This is what happens here. So when you get stressed out in your areas, understand that the testing ground was here. This is the testing ground, and everybody will duplicate. And that's the seriousness of pain, stress, connection. And that's a part of the process.
You said it. And it's so interesting to think about that because I know they've done studies in the NICUs where babies that didn't get touch in the NICUs failed to thrive. And so they'll bring in volunteers to cuddle babies
Yes.
in the NICU to make sure that they thrive. And then I instituted, so I also teach yoga, and I make sure I include people doing self-massage because at least then they're getting that massage, and we do a whole foot massage and we do hand massage. And I'm like, yeah, it's, of course we all want to be able to go and get someone else to give us a massage, but working on yourself, and for listeners at home, like maybe you just give yourself a little squeeze right now to remind yourself that you can touch yourself and that there's such healing there.
It's so important because we've got to also understand you've got to start focusing on self-care. Self-healing care. You can't depend on others all the time for your healing process because healing begins inside. It's inside you and you have to work with it. Assist the body. Learn how to listen to your body. When you get that first pain, what happens? The thing that usually happens is, oh, okay, it's a little uncomfortable. I'll bear with it. Then it comes back a little more forceful. Ooh, this is like, really kind of bothering me here, I don't know what this is, but I'll try to deal with it. So then the body's going to say, okay, I gave you a few warnings, you didn't listen, so now it's time for me to put you down. And now you got this intensified pain that, I got to go see the doctor, I got to find, which has now manifested into something else. And you've got to understand that the pain does not come without warnings. The body just doesn't put you in an unhealthy or sick position. It gives you, because the body systems are saying, I need some relief. And when I go back to reflexology and for you to understand how reflexology works, it's like this. Let me use this example. Think about the funny bone in your elbow. and you hit it, what's the first thing you're going to do? No, what's the first thing you're going to do?
Scream a little.
Exactly that. And there's a reason for that. We're going to do what I call the verbal release. It could be nice or it could be not so nice. I'm doing a verbal release. Then the message is going to go up the nerve ending to the brain, which is the body's communication center. And all messages that go to the brain travel through the nerve endings. So it goes to the brain and it's telling the brain, we got trauma in the elbow. And so then what are you going to do next? Is what you said. You're going to rub it. And as soon as you put your hands on it, message goes up the nervings to the brain. Release the body's natural pain relievers, which are the endorphins. That's how reflexology works. And to give you another example to really help you understand that, think about your house and all of a sudden the electricity goes off. You can either flip on the circuit breaker and electricity comes back on. But if it doesn't, now you got to call an electrician in. And the electrician is going to say, oh, we got some wiring problems, so we're going to have to do connecting of the wiring. Look at your reflexologist as being your electrician in terms of the nerve endings. That's what we do. We work with the nervings, connecting, reconnecting, and helping the nervings deliver the message to the brain in terms of whether it's cleansing of toxins that need to be released, or is it we got to open up a pathway that the pain is happening in an area so that you can go there and start sending soothing, healing energy. That's how reflexology works. It's the nervous system and the brain in communication with each other.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Is that part of your own self-care? So, you have a lot going on, and I know I'm curious. I know my listeners are curious. What does your self-care look like? How do you take care of yourself?
Well, one of the things I love to do is to spend time outside walking barefoot in the sun. That's why I love summer. I'm a summer person. I love the summer so that I can walk barefooted, because walking barefooted with the earth, that's like grounding. Because if you really want to really get a super cleansing, a super releasing, your feet touching the ground and all of the 250,000 sweat glands in the feet open up. And all of that energy from the earth vibrates from the feet, which are your body's foundation, running straight up your body all the way to the top of your head. And you do the same thing when you go to the beach and walk on the sand. When you walk on the sand, that's a mini reflexology session because those little pebbles are activating the nervings in the bottom of your feet. So that's one of the things I love to do. Another thing is I love to be able to spend time, quiet time, with nothing on. No sounds, no music, no, just in total quietness and listening to silence. And that's like a recharging and a rehealing. And those two things are real important to me in terms of my self-care for healing.
Do you try to get those in every day? Do you have a routine that fits in through your day?
In the summertime, I'm able to do the walk in the sun every day. I don't get as much sun as I would love to get when it gets cold because then I play bear. I go into hibernation. I don't like the cold. So like I do like the bears. I stay inside to stay warm. So that's what happens during the cold months. But I'm able to do the solitude, the listening. What I may change up doing is that I may get into doing a little more physical activity. Like I like the trampoline. So like I'll spend time jumping on the trampoline as a way to, rejuvenate myself like I would do if I was able to go outside in the sun. I like Tai Chi. All of those kind of like, quiet solitude kind of things is what I would do in the wintertime. So it's seasonal. So I have to adjust according to the seasons.
So you must be pretty excited right now because it's getting
I'm loving
nice.
it. I'm excited.
I bet that you have your cherry. You guys have cherry blossoms down there, right? Is they all blooming
Hmm.
right now?
Yeah, they're bloom. But and let me share something else that people don't understand. When you start talking, here we go again, and I go back to those adults in the box. We no longer have female trees. They're planting all male trees. So, which means in the springtime, when they would be germinating, all of their pollen is flying all over everywhere. And guess what? We're breathing it. This is what's causing the allergies, the sinuses, because they're not connecting with the female tree. And that's a real health problem.
Why aren't they planting female trees?
We have to ask those environmentally conscious people for what is their reasoning behind it. It makes no sense. But
Maybe the male trees bloom more or something.
probably, but for whatever reason, I have not found the answer to
Interest.
that. But it's causing a health problem. I mean, people are
Interesting.
suffering with more sinuses and allergy problems than they've ever had, and it's all traced back to the trees. That has been where it's been traced back to, because we live with a lot of male trees.
Interesting.
So I said,
I
okay,
did
that's
not
a
know
new
that.
study somebody needs to work on.
Totally, totally. I want to see the data on that. I gotta figure
Yes.
that's that. You've given me something to research now. Thank you.
Hmm.
So, if you had advice for people who were just starting out on the journey of taking care of themselves, what would that be? What would you have them start with?
The first thing I tell everybody, when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you need to do before you do anything is give thanks. Be thankful. You've been given a new day, and no matter what's going to happen in that day, be thankful for that first breath of air in your wakening moments. Be thankful is the first thing. The next thing I would tell people to do is get into breathing. The breath of life comes through breathing. When you think of the respiratory system, rest and then spirit. Respiratory is rest and spirit. Breathe. Let your lungs know that as you've given thanks verbally, you're letting your lungs know that you're thankful for the breath of air that it produces. Then I would say drink water. Before you even eat anything, the process would be drinking water, because now the water is what? Breaking fast that you had through the night. So that since the body is 75 to 90% water, then you're replenishing so that the body can then release what it needs naturally. And then the last thing I would say, understand, just as we talked about, self-help, touch. Spend time touching yourself, because it is the power of touch that heals all, no matter what. So being thankful, and understand that thankful is a power of touch, and hold on to that. And that's your healing routine.
I love that. I love that. That's a solid routine, doctor. I'm grateful. My listeners are grateful. Now they've got a plan.
That's the intention. We're here to help you help yourself. We're your biggest fans. I don't think you understand that your practitioner cheers you on every time they see you, and even when they don't see you, they're cheering you on for optimum health and wellness. And we're just here to be that support base for you.
That's absolutely 100% true. I'm always cheering on my clients and people on Instagram, Facebook, people I've never even seen before. Like, I
Yes.
am cheering you on.
Yes, exactly.
We've
Exactly.
got it.
Because we need you. I mean, you got work to do. It may not be what we do, but you got something special to do. So that's why we're cheering you on, so that you can come into what I call your optimum health and wellness to do this. Remember now, there are things called universal laws. And one of the universal laws is, for each and every day that you wake up, you have to pay rent. And that rent you pay to the universe is the gift that the universe gave you to share with the world. That's why we cheer you on, because you got a gift to give.
Absolutely true. Your Dharma. is what we call it in the Vedic world. But yeah, it's absolutely true. So, Dr. Olatunde, we have a tradition on the How to Take Care of Yourself podcast where towards the end, I ask two questions. And for you today, the first question is going to come from what's called the Delve deck. And I picked the Joy edition. And I kind of am loving that the color of the box is matching the color of your beautiful outfit. And so I'm going to pick, it just happened to be, I have two. The other one's dark blue. So it's like it could have gone either way. But I'm just going to pick a card at random here.
Okay.
We'll see what it says. Oh, this is a great one. So it says, what is a book you liked so much that you've reread it multiple times?
Oh, one that I'm rereading again is How to Talk to Yourself. And that's an old
love
book.
that.
That's an old, and I'm rereading that, and it is so powerful. How to Talk to Yourself.
Talk to yourself. Oh my gosh. Is it about how you should be kind to yourself? I'm assuming.
It's about the things that you say to yourself to empower you to get over blockages. That's the thing when it says how to talk to yourself. The things that you say to yourself. And when you talk to yourself, you're giving the energy to heal. It's inner healing. The words in the book is giving you ways to inner heal. So I love that. And I reread that. It's almost like an inspirational book in terms of what you need to do to be able to overcome things that you don't want to do, you don't like to do, but it needs to be done, and to get it out the way.
Exactly. Eat the frog, as they say, because if you eat the frog first thing, then everything else that happens after that won't be nearly as bad.
Exactly, exactly.
So the other question we ask at the end of every episode is, what are you learning from the food that you eat?
Right now, I'm on a real learning experience of eating the foods that feed and nurture my intestinal system, because the gut health is something that's real crucial right now that we're not paying a lot of attention to, because we don't realize that the colon is one of your most powerful organs. It's the colon. And when you understand the operation of the colon, and if you neglect the colon, what it does to all the other organs, it's a serious problem. And so what I'm learning now is to understand and respect my colon.
And you've just warmed this Ayurvedic practitioner's heart, because that's all we're ever talking about is how'd you poop? How's it going in the poop?
Yes. Yeah, it's crucial. And I don't think people understand that's your lifeline. That's it. And that's, my focus right now is looking at the colon and looking at the liver and looking at the gallbladder and understanding its operation and what are the nutrients. See, this is the other thing. They need nutrients. What nutrients do I need to feed them for them to be able to work effectively in doing what it is they're supposed to do? And so I guess what I'm saying in essence is when I eat to nourish my body. I do not eat to satisfy my taste buds. I eat to provide nourishment. So the foods that I eat has to serve a purpose, not just pass through my taste buds.
Well, and hopefully both things are true, that you eat to nourish your body and the food also happens to taste good.
But when I say taste good, I'm talking about, because only coming through saying it's either sweet, it's either bitter or salty. And you have to understand that sometimes the bitter isn't just as important as if you're going to have the sweet and the salty. And you've got to not tune it out because it serves a purpose as well.
Exactly. Dandelion greens, friends. Eat dandelion greens. They're so good for you.
Yes, yes, most definitely.
Dr. Olatunde, is there anything you wished we had talked about? Anything we didn't get to that you wished you had a little time to say something about?
You have allowed me to cover, wow, the whole gamut of my whole career, my whole life, my passion, and all. So we've covered pretty much. But the one thing I would like to share that I will share with your listeners is that there's an African tradition. And when you come to someone's home for the first time, you bring a gift. And I have a gift for you and your listeners. I have put together a poster of medication-free alternatives that are available to you as a part of your self-help routine. And all you have to do is go to Touchology, reflexology.com to download the poster. And that's my gift to you for allowing me to share my energy with you on this podcast today. And the other thing I can say is I encourage you to visit me online. My website is focusonhealing.com. I also wrote a book which is called Reflexology Today, a family affair, because I believe that healing begins in the family. And when one person becomes ill, the family needs to come together in terms of assisting that family member in the healing process. And my book, Reflexology Today, is a self-help guide in helping families relieve pain and stress using reflexology from infants to seniors. And it's in hard copy, and it's also in the download version. And you can get that also on my website, focusonhealing.com. And I also say, when you go to my website, I would, if you have any questions or anything you want to know about medication-free alternatives to relieving pain or anything about pain and stress, go to the Contact Me section, write your questions down, and trust me, I will get back to you and answer them, because a lot of people do that. So just write it down and I'll get back to you and answer, because like I say, I'm your number one cheerleader. I'm here to support you. And so what you're in need of, it's available at focusonhealing.com.
Amazing. And are you on social media, Facebook, Instagram?
Yes. You
Good.
can connect with me. I do have a Facebook account. I don't do a lot on Facebook, but I do more on LinkedIn. I'm more on LinkedIn. So you can go to LinkedIn, Njideka Olatunde. And I am on Instagram. And on Instagram, it's Evolving Butterfly. So that's where you will, the best way is LinkedIn, and Instagram is where you'll have more interaction with me. But I do have a Facebook. Facebook is Reflexology Pain Relief.com. I think that's my Facebook links. That you'll find that there as well. But those are my social media.
Amazing. And we'll link to all of that in the show notes below. Man, this has been such an honor, and what a pleasure, Dr. Olatunde, to get a chance to talk to you. I can imagine my listeners are too. I just feel so full of joy having this conversation with you.
Like I say, it's about give and receive. Two-way street. Is my honor, my humble honor, and my privilege to have been here to share with you and your listeners. And I truly give thanks. I am very thankful.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I hope to have you on again soon. Bye-bye. Wow, wasn't that incredible? Do you feel as uplifted and inspired as I do after that conversation with Dr. Olatunde? It was amazing. I had goosebumps throughout almost the entire episode. I think you probably did too. Now, if you want to dive deeper into her world, and I really encourage you to do so, head over to focusonhealing.com. You can grab her free gift there, which is a downloadable poster of medication-free alternatives for self-healing. And then check out her book, Reflexology Today, A Family Affair. And if you're craving more daily wisdom and connection, you can find her on Instagram at Evolving Butterfly and on LinkedIn under her name, Njideka Olatunde. Don't forget. I'm going to link to all of those things below, but I also need you to subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen, everywhere you listen. Do it on multiple platforms. Share it with your friends. Tell a neighbor. Help me out. I just don't want you to miss an episode, and I want to make sure that the show continues to grow so that I can continue to do it, because it brings me joy to help you. And if today's conversation sparked something inside you, it might be time to do the next step. You can work with me one-on-one to build your own healing plan through Ayurveda, food, and empowered living. Head over to my website, veronicawolffcasey.com, to learn more. All right, my friends, until next time, stay curious, stay empowered, and keep taking beautiful care of yourself. And in case no one's told you yet today, I love you. And I'm convinced of your capacity to continue crafting a life worth living. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.